we're ready to get going here. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Kevin Dickie. I'm with the District of Hope. I'm the Director of Operations that looks after solid waste collection. I'm pleased tonight to have Valley Waste with us, who brought some cart samples. You'll see back there, there's a garbage cart, a green cart, and a recycling cart. And there's also a small box that will be used for glass collection. So these carts are on order, and they will be delivered sometime in January. We haven't pinned down the exact date yet, but we will be informing residents as we get closer to the time. So just a few notes before I pass over to Jamie. We've got Jamie Benton here with the Regional District. He's the Environmental Services Coordinator, and he is our expert on all things solid waste here tonight. So I've had a few questions already about commercial with regards to organics and recycling and how all that is going to roll out. The district chose to take the biggest piece of pie, which is the residential, and focus on that immediately. We will now be transitioning into phase 2, where we're going to reach out to stratas, multifamilies, and businesses, because all of their individual needs are different. And so we're going to have to work with them on an individual basis. It's going to take some time, but it's really the only approach that we see fit to meet the needs of all the businesses, because you know, for example, if you're a towing company, you have different needs than a restaurant, especially when it comes to organic. So for stratas, don't worry, we will be reaching out to you, businesses as well, and we'll be working with you individually to figure out what solution is best for you. Additionally, the collection schedule is going to change when the bins come out. The green waste is going to be collected on a weekly basis. Glass is going to be bi-weekly with either the garbage stream or the recycling stream. We have yet to determine what's going to work out best service-wise for that. The garbage is going to be bi-weekly, and the recycling is going to be bi-weekly. So every week will either be green and garbage or green and recycling. And then one of the 2 weeks we'll have glass in as well. So obviously we'll be giving residents as much notice as possible and posting the schedule ahead of time so that residents can get used to it in time for change. So this will be happening in January. So I think what I'll do now is I'll pass over to Jamie, who's going to go through the requirements of the regional district's new solid waste bylaw that's going to be taking effect April 1st, 2020. And a lot of the changes that are happening here in Hope are to comply with the new bylaw. So we will be a little bit ahead of the game with the residential, and we aim to meet the April 1st, 2020 deadline with the multifamily and the commercial. So Jamie, take it away. And we'll be happy to answer questions afterwards, either as a group or individually. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I think what you're trying to say there is that the blame is on us. Yeah? Okay. So, hello everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Jamie Benton, and I am an Environmental Services Coordinator with the Fraser Valley Regional District. I've worked in solid waste for about 15 years, and I've been working here with the Regional District for the last 4. And one of the things we've been working on is this particular bylaw, which I'm going to talk to you about now. So hopefully you've heard of the Fraser Valley Regional District. Regional districts are kind of unique to British Columbia. You have the provincial government, and they come up with provincial laws, and then you have local governments. So you have the municipalities like the District of Hope and City of Chilliwack, and then those municipalities and then members of electoral unincorporated areas sit on a regional board, and that's the Fraser Valley Regional District in this example. Regional districts are responsible for regional programs and services, and for all the services in the electoral areas. So The Fraser Valley Regional District is home to around 300,000 people. And so we go all the way up to Boston Bar, North Bend, and the Sunshine Valley. And we border Metro Vancouver. So we have the 6 municipalities made up of the elected officials from those municipalities based on the population. And we have the mayor of Hope here tonight, who sits on our board. And then we have 6 municipalities and 8 electoral areas. So what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is this source separation bylaw. So the regional district is responsible for a solid waste management plan, and provincial government has said that every regional district has to have a plan of how everyone is going to reduce their waste over the next 10 years. Our plan was approved in late 2015, and in that plan, the minister said you have to keep to source separation. And I'll come on to what that means. But I'm going to go through what the bylaw is. I'm going to touch briefly on the District of Hope bylaw, what recyclable and compostable materials are, and then talk about the different types of generators and all the resources out there to help you meet these requirements. So, why is source separation needed? Back in 2015, we did an audit, and so some students got to work for a year, and at different times throughout different seasons, they opened up black bags that were going to landfill or to a waste transfer station. They looked through those bags and they sorted through the waste. And what they found is that that average black garbage bag had 38% recyclable material and 30% compostable organic material in there. And that's stuff that we don't need to send to the landfill. So this is the reason why we've come up with this bylaw. And it was approved last year by the Fraser Valley Regional District Board. And we've now started to come out and tell you all about it, and it comes into force next year. So we spent most of 2016 and 17, a whole year doing consultation. We came out to various different communities, we spoke to members and residents, we went around and we spoke to businesses, to chambers of commerce, to institutions, and we worked very closely with the Waste Management Association to then work and form this bylaw. If you were to go to Metro Vancouver at the moment, they have a similar bylaw, but they put the onus on the waste companies. So when the waste companies go to the transfer station or to the facility and they dump it, they fine the waste company. And then the waste company will fine all of you. So if a property with 50 different residents in it, everyone will be fined. And what we want to do is we want to place the blame on the single generator. So only maybe 2 of you are causing all that contamination. So we have made a bylaw which focuses on the generator. And we'll see how that works in the coming years. So we've been starting to do this outreach now and come around and to educate people. And the District of Hope is at the same time going through their changes. And then in 2020 and beyond, we'll start to do the implementation and continue the outreach and education. So what the bylaw from the region says is, it doesn't matter whether you are a resident, and so at the moment all single family residents across the region, except in the District of Kent, are already doing this. But now if you live in a multi-family setting, so in a condo or townhouses, or even if you go to work, we want everyone to be able to do the same thing. So what we're requiring is that you have 3 streams. You have your recyclables, your recycling bin, compostables going in the green bin, and then anything left over going in the garbage. The trash, or the rubbish, as I used to say. And so what we're saying is, once you've done that, you can either take that to an approved facility yourself, or you can get your hauler to collect that waste, and they have to then take it to an appropriate facility, and they can't mix it together again. And then the final thing that you need to know is that this comes into effect on April the 1st, and it's not an April Fool's joke. Oh.
Seems like one.
Yeah. So in the District of Hope, they have their own bylaw, and they will be changing their bylaw to reflect what the regional district does. So they will be requiring that the possible sorting starts in 2020. What you also need to know is that in some cases where you need to change your storage areas, you may need to talk to the District of Hope first, because there might be some planning or development changes that you need. So what are recyclables and compostables? Well, at the moment you put your paper, your metals, and sometimes your glass into the recycling bin, and also the different types of plastics. And the plastics are the most confusing, because there are some plastics you can't recycle, or there's some plastics that it's not financially worth recycling, and sometimes everyone wants you to take your bottles to the depot, or your glass bottles. And then we've had some calls from businesses saying, well, I don't create any compostable waste. Well, what about if you have paper towels in the bathroom, in your washrooms? That is compostable waste, and that's stuff that doesn't need to go in the garbage. There's also wooden utensils, and most importantly is food waste. I think Canada wastes the most amount of food in the world, and last year, just put it into perspective, food from when it was grown to when it was put in the bin is the equivalent of $50 billion wasted in Canada. We know that there are lots of people, everyone generates waste. Residents, businesses, and institutions. So for businesses, waste is a cost. So it helps all of us to reduce the amount of waste that we're producing. Having an extra bin will mean that you probably have to change your storage areas. What you need to remember is that you're not going to be creating any more waste. It's the same amount of waste, it's just that you'll need to put it into a different bin. So your garbage bin actually should get smaller. So depending on this, you need to work with your hauler or work out and try to create a storage area where it's easy for you to distinguish where the materials go. It always helps when it's clean and tidy and you've got colour coding or clear signage, especially in multifamily buildings with different stratas. And as said before, you may need to get a permit for those changes. Businesses especially, indoor sorting bins, it's important to have the right number of bins and to put them in the right areas. So especially by kitchens, make sure you've got bins on each floor. You don't need every single desk, for example in an office, to have a garbage bin. They're the first things taken away from our office. And what you'll need to do is also have some available for the public. So here there are some within the recreational area, although their bins could do some improvement, which I'll be talking to the manager about.
Ask you to speak up some, you can't even mumble a bit there.
Am I? Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
And I'm right up front.
Oh.
I don't know what you're putting up the back there.
Well, okay. So also colour coordination, that helps to distinguish between the different bins. Generally, the green bin is for organic food waste, and blue is also associated with recycling. And One thing that we have is a dedicated website for this. So you can go onto this website at the moment, and there's lots of really good information on here to help you with these changes. So we have different videos to help you with the different sorting, to think about how you can stop pests from getting into the food waste, or to how to deal with the smells. And on here are lots of the materials, so all the posters, the brochures, and there's also information about the different haulers you can contact if you have any problems. This is a page that just shows some of the materials that we have available. So you can print these off, or you can get some from my office, blow them up, put them on the walls, and they have lots of really good information on there. So just wanted to have a little bit of mention about reducing food waste. There's another website called Love Food Hate Waste, which is helping families save money by thinking about how you store food, for example, or making sure that you make a shopping list before you go to the grocers. They worked out that you could probably save about $1,100 each year by cutting down on the amount of food that you waste. One of the things we've also started in the Fraser Valley is a food recovery network with a company called Food Mesh. So there are 60 different companies that are signed up to this network, and they can either sell their food for cheaper if they've got too much of it, or they can donate it to charities. And actually Save on Food has now started to donate all of their food to the food banks. So this started last year in Chilliwack, and they started as a promotion, as a pilot. And just within the last 13 months, the Save on Food stores in Chilliwack has donated 350,000 kilograms of food to the food bank. That's donated every morning. 11 charities come in and access that food. Any of the food that can't be used is given to farmers, and then a small percentage of that is taken to the compost sites. So that's been a really good, worthwhile message to get out there. One of the things that people will say is, well, I put my recycling in, but it doesn't actually get recycled, it just goes to the landfill. And there's a little bit of truth to that at the moment, because we've seen lots of problems with the recycling markets. About 2 years ago, China decided to stop accepting all of the recycling material. And so North America all of a sudden had to start dealing with its own recycling waste. And they're still having to catch up because they don't have the processing markets here to process that material at the moment. It's beginning to change, and what's happening is the commodity markets have gone down, so there's not much money to be made in recycling at the moment. And that's why all of a sudden companies are having to force people to pay more for the recycling. But it is beginning to change, and I would urge you all to continue to recycle. It is good, and we will get there. So another thing, another massive challenge is contamination. Think about when I go to pick up the kids from school, or I look in their lunch each day and they've left half their yogurt in the yogurt pot, and then sometimes they just put that in the bin. Or you go to Timmy's and you get your coffee, but you don't drink it all, and then you throw that in the recycling bin. That liquid or food waste can contaminate all the rest of the recycling, and then you have to put all of that in the landfill. So cleaning out the containers really helps with the recycling message. This is just an example also of food waste contaminated with packaging. So talk to your haulers who pick up the material, They will tell you whether you can use the compostable bags, or whether you have to use paper bags or no bags. A lot of cases here, some of this has packaging in, so they have to, this has to go through a deep packaging process unit, which then increases the costs for processing. As I mentioned earlier about dirty pots, obviously the middle one there, the pizza box, just put the slice of pizza in the food waste, and then that actual recycling box, the cardboard box, you could put in the recycling, or you could put it in the compost box.
So even if there's grease on it?
Yes, even if there's grease, they want that back.
In the recycling?
In the
We just
recycling.
put it in our compost.
Yeah.
That's okay.
If it's got loads of grease on there, then yeah, it's a decision you have to make, but generally they want that back in the recycling. Okay? Can you still hear me? So, core messages. We want you to actually try and reduce the amount of waste you're producing to begin with, and reuse as much as possible. But where not, then we want everyone to recycle and to compost as much as possible. And remember that this comes into effect from April next year. There are lots of materials on the Be Wastewise website, but if you need any help, then talk to us. We're here to help you, as well as the District of Hope, and hopefully we'll get this together. And we don't expect everyone to be able to comply straight away. This is going to be a change in behaviours. So we expect to be doing this education for the next year or two. So without further ado, I shall hand over. I will say, are there any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
What if somebody doesn't care about what goes into what bin, and they just throw everything into one bin? Is there going to be a bylaw or something? How would they keep tabs on which household is going against the rules and regulations? Because I know when I lived in Burnaby, they would leave little notes on the different bins saying, you did this, you shouldn't have done that, and that sort of thing.
So,
Before you answer the question, can you just repeat what that person said so the rest of the room can understand, and then answer the question, please?
Okay, so the question was essentially, how's the District of Hope going to enforce infractions to the solid waste bylaw, for example, if somebody's not sorting their waste properly? So, we're gonna, obviously we haven't gotten into the organic separation yet, but we are gonna be revising our bylaw and putting in tools for the district bylaw department so that we can take action against residents who are not sorting their waste properly. That may be just doing random audits out in the field. Valley Waste is doing semi-automated collection, so they do have to roll the cart up to the lifting device on the truck. So they will have an opportunity to look at that, for example, recycling. And they lift the lid on there and they see something in there that doesn't belong there. They'll then tag that cart and leave it for the resident to sort it out properly. So it's going to take some time. We want to take a voluntary compliance approach rather than enforcement. So just to get into the contamination that Jamie spoke to, the district did sign on with Recycle BC, which means that we need to comply with their regulations with regard to the recycling. And that's why the change came where we were collecting glass and we were no longer collecting glass. And now we're going back to collecting glass. It's because Recycle BC would not permit the glass to be in with the recycling stream, because when it breaks it can contaminate that stream. So, for example, we get reports from Recycle BC where the trucks dump at the waste facilities, they get audited, some loads get audited randomly. And the target for Recycle BC is 3% contamination. The last report I got for the District of Hope was 25%. So we have some work to do with recycling in the community. We realize it's going to be a transition, but we do need to get down closer to the average, which is around 6 or 7% with neighboring municipalities.
I have one more question. If the garbage goes to the landfill, Where did the other bins go to? I mean, the stuff out of the other bins, they don't go to the landfill also, do they?
No, the green waste will go to an approved green waste facility where they either compost it or,
In Hope?
not in Hope, no, outside of
The
Hope.
question, please.
Where are the streams of waste going? And I don't know, perhaps Cameron, are you able to answer that question with specifics?
Yeah, for sure. The green waste gets transported from Hope to Bailey landfill, Chilliwack, where in turn from Bailey it gets transferred to Net Zero Waste in Abbotsford, is one of the main organic recyclers in the Fraser Valley. So that's where it ends up there. Bailey has the Chilliwack area, and then Hope is funneling through Bailey out to Abbotsford to Net Zero Waste. As for the recycle, that ends up at the Antera shop in Chilliwack. Antera has a number of recycling facilities across Canada, but they're part of the Recycle BC program, so that's the destination point for the recycle does go from Hope.
The truck is full. I mean, you've had all the way back to Abbotsford to come back for another load.
No, for green waste and garbage, they go to the transfer station and they empty the truck there, and then it gets loaded into larger trailers and hauled away that way. With the recycling, it has to go directly from the truck to Mterra. That's a stipulation of the Recycle BC program, that there is no transfer of the material, it has to go straight to the depot.
So the city of Chilliwack has a really good app on their, you can go onto your smartphone, where you just type in pizza box, and it tells you where to go, or it tells you what your pickup dates are. So is the District of Hope considering that, or is it too expensive for the size of the community?
Question?
So the question
We
is,
can't hear the question.
is the District of Hope going to develop an app, like a solid waste app, that residents can go on with their smartphone and, you know, look at schedules or get reminders about pickup days? You know, the larger communities have those apps. They have a little more resources than we do here in Hope. I'm not going to rule it out in the future, but I think to start out with will be a little more traditional way of getting information out to people.
So what's the cost gonna be?
For residential
Oh,
collection?
yeah, like we pay now $268 a year for garbage pickup. What's
Yeah.
the cost gonna be for these cans and all this fancy stuff?
The residential solid waste rate is going to $322.
Wow.
That's the first increase in 6 years. Yes.
A couple questions. If we're reducing the amount of garbage we put in the landfill, why are we paying more to get rid of it? That's the first question. Secondly, I have a composter in my yard, which composts all the kitchen waste. I have no need to put any kitchen waste in a container, so don't bring me that container. I don't need that container. Secondly, those containers are humongous. You know, they're fine in Danny in Vancouver, where you got your garbage behind your garage, you just wheel it through the gate and it's in the alleyway where they pick it up. But a lot of people are going to struggle with those big containers to get them to the street. Maybe as you go forward, there'll be maybe a smaller container available that people that don't require that big of a container. First off, I'm by myself. I generate very, very little garbage. I should get picked up every 3 weeks and not even have a bin half full, right? And also I do the full recycle system. So just a couple of food for thought.
Well, that's very good, and certainly everybody's needs are different, and it's difficult to have you know, one solution for everybody. It's almost impossible, but kudos to you for reducing and reusing. That's the goal here.
Another question regarding the size of the bins. I noticed, first of all, they said, you know, the size of bins appropriately, the ones you're buying are all the same size. Secondly, yard waste, that bin ain't gonna do it. Are we still gonna allow them to be able to put the paper bags out, or?
We're gonna have to work out what we're gonna do, like with extra bag tags with regard to that.
So you're,
You know, ideally, if you have a massive amount of yard waste because you're doing a spring cleanup, that's what the transfer stations are for.
so you're increasing our costs, you're cutting our service in half, and now our yard waste, which has been picked up, you're not picking up. So in other words, the costs going up because it's not free to dump it at the landfill. Plus you have to hire a truck to go up there if you don't have one. So be honest about the cost. This is a massive increase in cost for reduction of service. Sorry, that's what it is.
Okay. Yes.
I'm gonna stand up
here, because I'm sort of jumping the bandwagon on that. I moved to Hope here in 2002, and I was so delighted with the idea of recycling because we had the blue bags and everything went in them. We had a small local company, and it all went to the station, and they sorted it so it went in the appropriate streams. Now, instead of having somebody through these waste disposal companies doing the sorting, more and more it's coming back on us. And I've been looking at what's crinkle plastic, what's overwrap, what's acetate, what's this, what's that, and all these different things. Plus, not all of the older people can get things to the secondary. Now, if I have crinkly plastic, I'm going to have to take it to the depot because it doesn't go in the recycle bin. And like he said, and we're paying more and we're getting less and less. Why is this going back onto the individual households when it would make so much sense for people to be given jobs, say at Valley, doing the sorting so it ended up in the right street?
So, I can't talk about the cost or anything here in terms of what's, sorry, I can't talk about the cost or anything to do with the District of Hope, but in answering the question about why is the pushback on the public to sort, one of the difficulties is the contamination. So they found that if they require the individuals or the householders to sort those recyclable materials out, you get a better quality product at the end. Yeah. So the other thing that's changing, because I had the same question today at the Chamber of Commerce in Chilliwack, the other thing that's changing is the type of materials that packaging. I think in 5-10 years, we'll be dealing with completely different types of packaging. And my hope is we won't have so many complicated sorting systems. So you won't have to look at something and say, oh, it's country package. Do I have to put it in this bin or that bin? It's too complicated at the moment.
It is.
And
Which is why, and it's you guys that came up with this complicated pattern.
well, no, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, you said that you, the district, sat down and decided this was the way to go. We've watched 3 different companies now in Hope with our garbage and recycling. And I know what I paid when I moved here initially, and then we got told with First Class that we couldn't put the blue bags out anymore because they weren't recyclable. Okay, we'll buy recyclable blue bags. But now we're getting these bins because more people aren't going to, they're getting less and less staffing, obviously, because you're going to have the machine pick it up, And so now, you guys who have formulated these bylaws are now saying instead of looking at an alternate stream that you can manage with a consistency, now we're going to put this back onto the public and we're going to fine them if they don't do it right. And what you're going to have is a bunch of old people who are totally confused, a bunch of people who are going to throw up their hands and say, I don't care anymore. Like, I care about the future. I want my kids to have a clean planet. I have been trying to recycle myself and my household for a long, long time, but it has gone from being very simple when I first came here to putting it in a blue bag and knowing that it was going to the station here on 6th and getting sorted, to now having to have God knows how many bins in my front of my little house and having to chance being fined because I put the wrong dang piece of plastic in the wrong bin.
I understand your frustrations.
Oh, no, you don't.
Okay, so let's go back to when you started to do that. What happened is that all that material used to go to China or to India. And actually, that didn't get recycled. It got burned there.
It doesn't
So,
matter
but it
where
does
it
matter.
went.
Because,
The point is, we had employees here working at the recycle depot
and that's,
who had that as a job to do that sorting.
And
And I'm
how-
saying, where in this process did nobody consider having Valley and First Class have a secondary employment chain of doing that recycling? And if we're gonna be paying more for this process, let's pay for some people to do that so we know it gets in the right bin.
We're not saying put the contaminated stuff in with the non-contaminated stuff. We're just saying in
Yeah.
Irregardless of whether it's crinkled plastic or cereal bags. And have secondary sorting at the depot where it goes in. More employment for people, less confusion, and you're gonna meet your targets far better than putting it on each individual household.
And it costs you more.
It already is costing us more, even more.
So, question over there?
Well, I know it's tricky, and I do think it would be a complicated recyclable system. But I honestly think it has to come back on us. I think we have to say, oh my God, look how much plastic I have.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, just look at what I'm putting in there. Maybe next time I go to the grocery store, I can buy an alternative item that doesn't have all this plastic, or doesn't have, and I've been trying to do that, and sometimes it's really hard. There's some products I don't even bother buying anymore, because they only come in plastic.
Yes?
On a positive note, I've been to a city where they take the compostable part to their central place, and it's not that this won't happen in Hope, but it could happen not too far away. And they create wonderful soil that the public can come with their car, their little buckets, and get the soil and bring it, my brother, and bring it to their home and use it in their garden. And it was just fabulous to see that was a really neat, I don't know if that's talked about for the regional district.
That's, so actually all the organic waste from here will go to net zero waste.
Yes.
And then at the end of the day, there's that product, and it does actually happen in Chilliwack at Bar Road, yeah.
And it's accessible to the public.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have a day in the year where you can come and fill up as much as you want.
Maybe that could be kind of provided, because that information, I've never heard that information in Hope. And I drive to Chilliwack and get soil. Or when I'm down there, I pick up soil.
Yeah.
It's only one day. It's not every day.
But
One day
fine.
a year.
Well, I only have to
And
go
then when you
up.
have your garden. And
I think what you
your
raise
garden,
is an important point.
You know.
Pave your yard.
It's our responsibility.
Then communities in bloom should be shut down. Because
A lot of the pressures that are put on us come down from international or decisions made at a federal decision. It would be great if we could have more employment in recycling, and it would be great if everything was done locally. And the fact that we send our materials all around the world to get recycled at the moment, and this globalization has meant that we've kind of lost that. And there is a push to get back to that circular economy approach, that whatever waste we produce, that it gets sorted locally and then processed locally. But it's going to take time, and any change like this is going to take time for us to get on board with. And it's going to be difficult to begin with. Any change is. But I think we can get there, and it's something that's going to take a generation to all of us get into.
I'd just like to say, at Coquihalla Elementary School, this year we've really been working hard to get the kids recycling and get them more aware. We have our own sort of color-coded system for the overwrap and crinkly stuff and all the snack wrappers that they come with. It's crazy. And do you want to know who the best, can you guess what grade the best recyclers? Yeah, the kindergartners. If one of the kids is walking to the bin, they will say, no, 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 put it in that one. And they are the cleanest. They're rinsing out their containers. They are the best ones. That's 4- and 5-year-olds. You guys, we can do it. We can do this. We can do it.
I'm just curious about strata complexes. When you talk about giving out bins like this, we have several strata complexes in Hope. You said that it would be brought up, but what is your vision for that, just so we have an idea?
Yeah, so that's our second phase. So we're gonna reach out to individual stratas and work with them and work with Valley Waste to come up with a solution, because no two stratas are the same. They all have individual needs. They're all different densities, different footprints. So some may want to be treated like curbside, like the residential, and others may want compounds with multiple bins. So the district will be reaching out to the stratas and the businesses in the community over the next few months and working with them to come up with a solution that best fits their needs.
So if those bins are coming to us in January, so if you're in a strata, you're not going to get a bin then? How is that going to work? Or are you reaching out to the stratas by January?
Well, yeah, we'll be reaching out over the next month and a half, I would say. And, we will have bins available after the regular rollout that we can individually tailor to the stratas. So it's going to take some time, obviously, because there are multiple businesses and multiple stratas. But we're going to have to deal with them on a one-on-one basis, because one size does not fit all, one solution fits all.
Well, I guess my concern would be, like right now, I live in a 6 complex strata. We have one garbage can between 6 people in our units, but we have the garbage can outside, and we have to put it inside. I'm wondering how that's going to work. Like, could we still use the same bins and then just take them in and out as needed? Because we don't want the bears to be getting into our compost or into our garbage.
So I don't have a specific answer for you tonight, except to say that we're going to have to work with you to determine what the best solution is for your needs.
I lived in a complex of 3 units. We had more than just 3 bins. We had about 5 of the compostable, we had 5 of the recyclable, and we had 5 of the garbage. And then once a week, of course, the trucks and everything in the city has got the automatic lifters, the forklifts to lift all the bins. But it was always the responsibility of volunteers to bring those bins out to the street once a week, and then the truck would come by and take them all. It wasn't 1 week is this, 1 week is that, took them all. But I guess we have a different system here in Hope.
Well,
Can you summarize?
so he just gave an example of when he lived in a strata and how they had multiple bins for each stream, and a volunteer from the strata would take those bins out to the curbside for collection on a collection day. So that's one example of an individual solution that may not work for another strata or another business. So that's the reason behind why we have to speak to each of the individual ones and tailor a program that works for them.
I wanted to know, if you have a household where there's little garbage and you come every 2 weeks with that huge garbage can, it's going to smell if I would have to collect for 3 weeks, 4 weeks my garbage in order to have a little bit in that bin. So what do? It starts smelling.
So unless you have a baby in the house and you have diapers, your garbage shouldn't smell if you're...
Garbage smells at the moment because it has the
Once you've separated the organics out and the recycling, your garbage should not have an odor to it.
I just want to say, I live in Chilliwack, and we were all really worried about this same thing, that it would smell. And I have 3 teenagers in my house, sometimes 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how many people are sleeping over. And we now use the compost religiously, and our garbage no longer smells. So it didn't take very long to figure out that the garbage just doesn't smell if everything goes into the compost. The compost smells really bad.
Bear population around this area. Because they have these fish jumping apart.
What do you do with diapers then? Or depends, where do you put them? Garbage? That smells, yeah.
Yeah, so in some cases, you will have garbage that smells, but for the majority of residents. Once you separated the organics out, the smell in your garbage goes down dramatically. You're also likely going to bag some of those items that are going to still smell, so that will help.
Then you put it in a plastic bag.
That's right, you bag it. Yeah.
Put plastic into your garbage. You shouldn't.
Approximately a year ago, we were told we could not use the blue bags anymore. So I still have a healthy supply of blue bags that we can use now. And I was forced to buy a recycling bin, which I did. So now we're going to be switching to these new bins. Is the district supplying those to us at no cost?
These bins? Well, they're
Yes.
built into the solid waste fee, yes.
So each household will get 3 separate bins at no cost?
Correct.
Are they
And
numbered?
what do we do with the large blue bin that we purchased that we can no longer use?
Well, if you have another use for it, I would suggest you seek out another use for it or recycle it.
Okay, so does that mean that every household has to have a storage area outside to house these 3 new bins now?
So I've lived in 3 municipalities that have had these carts, and it is important that especially with wildlife conflict, that particularly with the organics cart, that you have that secured in a garage or you build an enclosure outside for that, because it's not really collection morning that is the issue with the bears. It can be, but it's the time in between collection when it's on the premises. If it's not secured, they have all night to get into it. And even though we've got latches on the green waste and the garbage bins, if a bear has enough time, they're going to get into that bin.
Truck driver bring a flat nose shovel so he can clean it up?
Sorry?
Will the truck driver bring a flat nose shovel so he can clean up the bear's mess?
I'll have to direct that question to Valley Waste.
I have a question.
Yes.
Many things in garage, like garbage in garage, and we get like rats into our house.
Yes. Yeah.
So all those things are worse than having them outside and getting the bears getting in that. The bear can give us antivirus and things like that can kill us. So I think you have been very patronizing about all this new system and the bins, etc., and putting the onus on us, the taxpayers, that we have to pay more for a service that was well provided before everything went into privatization. Like when the city had their own garbage collection, etc. But I really think that you are patronizing all of us with your comments and putting the onus on the people that pay for the things to be done. So I think you should work into being more efficient, more caring about how you go about that, and stop imposing on us things that are going to be very hard to control, very hard to do, and don't create problems for the people, like telling them, keep your garbage in the garage. You know, that's really ridiculous.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, these bins are I guess basically started in Vancouver with that system, the Lower Mainland, which is fine and dandy in the city. First of all, you don't have that many bears wandering around the city, you got a few, but there's not as many as you get here, and critters. And the bins are sitting at the back of the garage, and they wheel it out to the alley where it's taken away, which is maybe 10, 15 feet. Here, unless you're going to put your garbage can in your front yard, because most of the pickup in this town was in the front street, this is just problematic and going to be real difficult for the people to do.
Why don't we try it first?
As long as they're willing to change it, it don't work. That's fine, we can try it, but if the change it don't work. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your comments, sir. I don't think we're implementing anything here that hasn't been implemented in most municipalities in the Lower Mainland.
I just said to you, I said that. But it's fine in Vancouver where you've got the alley pickup, okay? Now, if we get alley pickup here in Hope instead of the street pickup, then the people don't have to have it, bring it from their backyard into their front yard to get it to the, they just go out the back gate and it's there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, sir, but I mean, I've lived in communities myself where not everyone has a lane. So not all the communities are the same. Yes, Vancouver is more dense than many other communities, but if you look at a community like Surrey, it's made up of areas quite similar to Hope here. So anyhow, thank you for your comments.
Our son lives in Victoria and they do not have alleys there and they leave their bins, my son takes it outside. He has to haul it to the front and it works fine.
That's the difference right there. We're up on the lake, Victoria, we're on top of the lake, and there's a lot of wildlife up there. And if we put these up there, we had a bear shake our whole garbage shed. We bought a garbage shed for $300 this summer. And we put our 2 garbage bins in there, 1 garbage bin and 1 recycling bin. And we have our bags that we take out our leaves in and stuff. Now, we got way, like this gentleman said, we got way more bags of leaves than will fit in that, right? So there's a number of issues here. One, why not think about getting something half that size? It's automated tracking. It's got a handle, you can pick up a half height one. It could even be a stacker. Maybe not that, but there's solutions that are, they gotta start thinking about. The mayor needs to address the council and think about this so we can talk to you guys about making a half-size bin. These are way too big. I gotta buy a massive big garbage shed now, put these bins in. Secondly, organics. They reek. We're from Delta. We moved here 7 years ago. And we're in Estrada. We know how this all works. And it works fine. They got a big bin for garbage. They got another bin for recyclables. And they have a green bin like that, a couple of them, for organics. They reek. And the reason we moved from there, because they had a plant across in Richmond that burned all this crap. That's another issue we better not ever get in Hope. You start burning organics, you might as well move, because you cannot open your window at night. It's atrocious. So they moved it on to Delta. It's even worse than the dump used to be. So that's another big issue for everybody to think about. Don't ever have them process that stuff anywhere near here, where we live, in the country. So, being up at the lake, we can't have these out here. We had a bear come and shake the whole thing, right? He made a noise so we got scared and ran away, but the raccoons won't. They'll tear it apart. So you need to think a little bit about this. How are they doing it in remote areas of Chilliwack where they have wildlife? There must be similar problems.
It's going to be addressed.
Well, we recognize that there are going to be some areas in the community that are going to be more susceptible to wildlife interaction with the solid waste containers. You know, obviously, once we roll this out, if we're finding that there are massive issues out there, we're going to look to work with residents to find solutions.
Good. One issue automatically right away is we had to stop using these little blue plastic bags. A plastic bag that's compostable should be allowed to be used in these bins because after a few weeks they're going to reek and stink, and seniors can't be holding this stinky stuff out. And you can't have it in your garage. Let's just be serious here. You cannot have those in your garage. That bear would have knocked my garage door over if you smelled that through there, he would. So that's not a solution. But let's get these compostable plastic bags in our bins, whatever size bin we end up with, and that might help go a long way to keeping it clean.
One of the concerns with the compostable plastic bags is not all of them. Well, for one, they're not regulated, manufacturers of the bags, so there is no regulating body, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're here. You've come up with these.
No, but we're not in the business of producing compostable bags here.
Well, who produces these?
Companies.
Companies to your specifications. Get them to make a plastic bag to your specs. How simple is that?
Should you be looking into that? You
Yeah,
should be looking into
absolutely you should be.
So what I'm saying is, I agree with you. It's a great idea, but right now there is not a bag on the market available that's 100% compostable.
So you're supposed to use these tiny little paper bags to put your compostable stuff in?
In your kitchen, yes, that's what most people are doing.
I have a bone to pick too with the leaves. We used to be able to put it in these plastic bags, and we could put them outside, and they wouldn't disintegrate. There wouldn't be leaves all over the ground the moment it pours all night here at home. The next morning when they go to pick them up at 7:30. You know, come on, there's got to be some intelligence used on some of this. It's easy, it's not complicated. First of all, address the issues for seniors. That would be much appreciated, because we're all getting there. And second of all, this issue is not going to be a big issue in 5 years, like you said. There's going to be all these things are not going to be around anymore. The kids are driving that. change too. So we know this problem's gonna go away over a short period of time, 10 years. But this is the time now we gotta deal with it. I think Hope needs to step it up and find solutions for this for everybody. Somebody can make those containers half size. That would be a big step. We're never going to put that much organics in a residential environment.
Abbotsford has a smaller composting bin. Half that size. So if Abbotsford has it, why can't we have it?
The district deals with the whole valley. The district's dealing with the whole valley. They must have run across this problem.
The regional district deals with the valley, yes. Well, thank you for your perspective. Your comments are noted.
Okay, one question. In my kitchen, I have a black plastic bag because I put all my garbage in. Those plastic bags will no longer be allowed to go into the garbage container.
Yeah, still use it. Carry on with your plastic bags for the garbage.
Because plastic is what they're trying to get rid of.
I know, but it is expected that people have to collect their garbage in some way.
We do separate everything. The garbage goes into the black plastic bag.
Yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am?
I'm just wondering if we could maybe do a show of hands. How many people think they could get by with half-size compostable bin? And it's collected every week.
It's collected every week for the organics, and the benefit is you can top it up with your yard waste.
So that's a pretty good indication with the people, how, you know, how we would like to see. The majority of the people say that they don't need that much.
Well, I mean, I would just caution to say that we haven't started the program yet, so.
If we could put yard waste in another container, then certainly the kitchen garbage and all that is in one container, because we don't use yard waste every, you know, it's seasonal.
It is seasonal, yeah, so in the winter time, you know, winter months, December, January, February, it's mostly gonna be organic waste in there.
Is there a way to get two sizes of compostable bins? And then it would, when you are distributing the bins, you would ask the owner, what size would you like? Is it possible to get two different sizes? And then you would base it on what that person has asked for?
It is possible, but it can get very complicated. And from my experience, where I've rolled these systems out in other municipalities, is people request the bin that the size that they think they're gonna need. And then when they get the bin, they determine that it's not the size that they need. And then they're requesting another size. So it becomes a little bit of a logistical issue. It can be quite an administrative burden as well.
But obviously, someone who lives in a basement suite is not going to need or have the need like a family that has a large yard, and a family that's living there. A family of 5 with a large yard is not going to need the same bin size as a single person who lives in a basement suite somewhere. That's where there should be some, I realize that it would be difficult, but in the end, would it not be smarter? Because then you wouldn't have so many people complaining about the size of the bin and where to store it. Because if I'm a single person and I only have this much compost in the bottom of this ginormous bin, and the next family is saying, well, I don't even have enough room to put all my leaves in it, that's not gonna be big enough for me. There's gotta be some kind of a compromise, and maybe a survey or something could be taken. I don't know, I just think that in the end, people would be a lot happier getting to choose the size of bin that they want. If they don't like it, they can return it, you get another used one, and we'll give you another one that somebody else has returned.
Another thing to keep in mind, and I appreciate your comments, is that the bin belongs to the dwelling. So When people move, the bins stay. So, you know, if it happens to be a single couple that's living in the premises and then a large family moves in after that, then we would run into a situation where that bin doesn't suit them, and there'd be a lot of back and forth, a lot of bin delivery, a lot of bin pickup. And there's quite frankly, there's a cost to that. Yeah, so we made the decision to go with a standard size bin. This is your medium size bin. And we know that it's not going to be perfect for everybody, but we found that administratively and logistically, it's the most efficient way to go.
Just a question about the bins themselves. You say they belong to residents. My experience with garbage bins, regardless of which company, how good or bad they are, my garbage cans last about 2 years before they're beat to pieces by snowplows, garbage men, or whatever else. If a bad bin becomes damaged, does that become the homeowner's responsibility to replace it?
No, so that the bin is going to be assigned to the dwelling, as I said, but ownership of the bin is with the hauler. So if there is damage through wear and tear, we'll put that disclaimer in. I mean, if there's malicious vandalism, and that can be determined, then it may not cover the repairs. But if there's wear and tear issues with the carts, Valley Waste will make the repairs.
Or exchange it.
Well, that would be up to them, whether it's repairable or not.
Usually they'll exchange it.
Yes, sir.
If I should determine I need a smaller bin, I'm willing to pay for one, is there any reason why it wouldn't be picked up?
If you provided your own bin, you mean?
Yeah. A smaller one.
At your cost, yeah. I mean,
If you're not gonna supply me with one, and I find a big one is too hard to manage, or I don't want a big enough enclosure for it, and I'm willing to buy another container, will you pick it up?
That's something that I can discuss with Valley. I'll get back to you on that. Yes.
So why is the green bin not very resistant? We have so many mobile homes and people in cabins and small homes who cannot store it inside. So make the bin very resistant. There are really good bins out there.
So with this particular bin, there is a latch.
That's not
Yes.
very resistant at all. No. Bear seams are very resistant, but not those bins.
Well, we'll have to have that debate another day. Yes, ma'am?
If we want to, I live out on Flood Hope Road, so we have all kinds of critters out there. And I have a building for my garbage cans now, but those won't fit in there. Do I have to get a permit from the city, pay for another permit to build another thing to put these garbage cans in?
It would depend on the size of what you're building. I mean, if you're building quite a large...
Well, to fit those cans in?
Well, I don't want to quote our building bylaw, but there's a certain size that you can build up to without a permit. And I would suggest that you can build something large enough to put those containers in without a permit.
One more question for you. Is it an option for Hope to postpone the implementation of this bylaw? Is Hope able to postpone it so that a little more thought can get put into this and the right size containers for, one size does not fit all at all. It's going to be a huge problem here. Second of all, a storage bin, like I said. Is Hope able, is the city of Hope, is it their option to not implement the bylaw at the time has to be implemented? Can we talk to the mayor about that and ask him to hold off on implementing this bylaw until this gets sorted out?
Hope is not able to delay the implementation of the regional bylaw.
Hope has to do this.
Right.
As of this date, there's no choice.
April 1st, 2020.
And that's a district requirement.
That's a regional district requirement.
Of a city.
Regional district.
The regional district says to Hope, you must do this by this date.
Yes.
Well, that's not very good. That's not very well done.
That's no different than Metro Vancouver telling their member municipalities the same.
They don't have the same problem. We sure do. Nothing. I live there for 20 years.
So I started a campaign to I'm never sick of the only thing from everything in the world is going to be looped and they're discouraging garbage. You can't see the garbage is going on. Why should we support that? That's part of it, yeah.
Yes.